Hello guys, welcome back to the next part of our little tutorial series on spline modeling. So the last time we looked at making some simple props using lathes, and this time we're going to look at making cables and ropes and things like that. So that was the stuff we created in our last video. Another really useful little use for splines is actually just to help organize your scene a little bit. You can see here I've just drawn a little rectangle around these objects just to gather them all together so that they were all part of video 1. And I've done the same over here for the stuff we're going to look at in video 2. So let's start just by showing you some very simple basics. I'm getting a spline tool here, I've got the line tool, and what I'm going to do is just drag out a little line here, and I'm just clicking and dragging to add those little bit of curve to it. And when I've got my last point, all I have to do is hit the escape key, and that will stop the line. So at the minute this is just a 2D line. If you were to render this out, it wouldn't actually render because there's no polygons here. You can't actually, there's nothing to see effectively. This is just a path, shape. But over here, in our create panel, we have this little roll down box called rendering. So it might be closed, you might need to look for it here. But the one called rendering, we've got two little options here that we want to check. If we go enable and renderer and enable and viewport, and what that does is it converts it from just a path shape into an actual 3D solid object, and generally it will be like a cylindrical tube shape, but it doesn't have to be. If we come over here to that rendering option, we can not only change the thickness of it, but we can also change how many sides it has. So if we want it to be triangular in shape, we just reduce it down to 3. We can get it kind of rectilinear in shape, we put it to 4, or we can just get a smoother and smoother circle. The more we do, the smoother it'll be. Now you'll notice here that we have quite a lot of polygons going around it, but we still got quite a bit of boxiness, quite some hard edges here. And what we can do is scroll down to the next little section called interpolation, and we have an option here called steps. All we have to do is either raise this or lower it, and you'll see it will subdivide that more and more to get a smoother result. Now, obviously, the higher you do it, the more polygons you're going to have, and the less optimal it'll be for a game engine or a game mesh or whatever. But that option is there. If you're doing VFX, get that up as high poly as you need it to and get some nice smooth results. So that is that. Let's show some actual practical uses for how this might be used in game here. So I've got a couple of little props made. This one is going to represent something akin to a telegraph pole. So if you're playing a game like, say, I don't know, Far Cry or something, and you have a couple like real world props, so you might be going down a dirt road and there's a couple of telegraph poles with wires going across them. So what we can do is I've just duplicated and made 2 of them. Hit F on my keyboard, and what I'm going to do is just take my line key. I'm going to just disable the renderer for now, and I'm going to draw out a couple of do you know what I can do? I can just draw straight lines for now and connect those in there. I'm not going to be too picky with my positioning, but I'm just doing a couple of straight lines. Hit escape. And now what we'll do is I'll select both of these, right click, convert to Editable Spline, and what I'm going to do, I'll just select this bottom one, go to my vertices, and if I right click this and set to Bezier, I can pull down that handle and do the same here. It's Bezier as well, pull down that little handle. And I can just make these sort of hang down as if they were kind of not really optimized. And I just play with it until we get that sort of nice and hanging down in the middle. Over to this one now, we'll do the same thing. In fact, we'll just select both of these, convert to Beziers. And there's that little handle now. Oh, that's not what I want, but that'll do. If you were making this a say a longer telegraph wire with more than 2 sections, we would convert this to a Bezier corner, you might recall from the last video, so that we could actually have our next piece of the piece of the line again going down the way. Let's see, where's this one now? Where's my little handles for this guy? There we are. So that's all we really need to do. And if we come out of our sub-object mode and select these, we can go to our rendering again, just click enable and render in viewport and adjust the size and thickness as necessary. We're probably going to be really thin if it's in game. So thickness of about 2 centimeters maybe. And if we zoom way in, this being so small in a game engine, we don't need this many sides. We probably could get away with going right down to 3. Because it's only going to be a tiny background detail you're not really ever going to be up close to. I want to keep that poly count low. We might also want to have our interpolation down quite low as well. So you can see there I've got the interpolation down to 0, which means just a straight line. 1, 2, 3. Maybe something like that. We're starting to get at 6 steps. That's looking fairly curvy. I can live with that. Just depending on your system requirements, you can adjust as necessary. So there we've got those 2 wires. Adjust that down to about 2-3 centimeters. 3 seconds. So now if I go back to my perspective view, I'll just move these over, and I can just duplicate these and adjust each one, adjust the sort of the hang of each one to make this look really kind of like a busy telegraph pole. So even if I just duplicate a couple of these, there we go. When you're looking at certain angles, that looks pretty good already actually, even without changing the angle of these. That looks pretty good. So another little thing we can do, something similar, if we have a piece of maybe steampunk technology or something like that, we can have some wires sort of sticking out and flying into other places. So I've got this little, I'll just delete this guy, get out of the way. I can do the exact same thing, just go with my line tool, and I'll start maybe here, and pull out these wires, something like that, escape. I will set that sides again down to maybe 8 for this. If this is a wee small prop, we might see a bit more close up, so we'll maybe have 8 sides in it, make it look fairly circular. And then we will just select this guy, convert to Editable Spline, and just fine tune the position of those. That was our only one, wasn't it? Yep. So play with these a little bit, get them in the right kind of position. And if we go back to our perspective view, doing that in front mode, I think this is just setting it to the 0 point. So just adjust it as necessary. There's one. And we can very quickly, once we have one, just shift and move to create duplicate. Okay, for that duplicate, I'll maybe make it a little bit thicker. And again, we just go to our front viewport, and we can adjust some of those polys. Just move them out of position a wee bit so they're not exactly overlapping. And yeah, just build it up like that. Maybe that was a little bit off position there. I'll just shift you over. Whoops, oh, I've got lost here. Select an object, press Z on the keyboard, that'll focus you on it. Yeah, so just build that up. You can even have these sort of just dangling out loose and stuff. Remember as well with these, you will need to unwrap them. So we can just select add or unwrap UVW onto it and just use your regular unwrapping tools that we've seen in countless other videos. Okay, next thing I want to show in this video, what can we do? I'm going to show you how to make something a little bit more complex. This is like a rope kind of shape. Just being a little bit clever, we can actually make shapes like this using splines. So I'm going to go back to my regular modeling tools here. I'm going to show you a nice little tip. If we make a cylinder, make it nice and tall, give it a bit more height. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a lot of height segments here, because we want a lot of geometry in this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the number of sides down to 3. And with this, I'm going to go to my modifier panel here, and I'm going to look for a modifier called twist. And you'll see what the twist does if I just work on it here. It's just going to spiral it around. And I'm just going to get that. I'm not counting anything mathematical here. Might not be precisely right, but I'm just going to give it a twist. And I'm happy enough with that. So I'm now going to add an edit poly modifier to this. Now I could have just right clicked on it and go convert to editable poly, but doing that means you lose everything in the stack here. So I wouldn't be able to go back and control this twist modifier, etc. But anyway, what I want to do is I want to go to my edge mode, and I want to double click to take one edge of it, hold control, double click to take another, hold control and double click to take another. So now I've got all three of the lines. I've got sort of a triangular cross section. I've got all 3 of those lines selected now. And there's a great little thing we can do, or we should be able to do. I might actually need to, oh no, there we are. With those selected, if we come to edit edges, we'll go create shape. And you'll see what happens is we've actually created a spline shape from that. Now it already has the render enabled using the last setting we have. So if we come to top level and we just go back in and select that now, and I'll just move over to the side, you can see what we have. We've got this nice sort of triple spiral shape here. And if we go into the rendering, we can just put the thickness up, and there we go. We've got something that resembles a rope, and we can turn the sides up as well to smooth that out. So we've got a nice rope shape there. And obviously this is just a tiny little section of rope, but we can make this as long as we want. We can do other stuff. We can use an array to duplicate this, and we can do all kinds of stuff with it, but I'm not going to get into that. I just want to show you that little option there when you select edges in a polygon. So even if I just select one of these cross sections, I can do the same thing. I can create a shape, and now that is very thick, as you can see. But if I go to my top level, come out of sub-object mode, select that, just move it over out of the way. Again, we can pull our thickness down. And this one is using sort of curved. We've got the curves there, as you can see, so we could adjust these if you want. But the real strength in this is if you want to create a complex shape, you can actually create 3D geometry and just get clever with your modifiers, and then select your edges and convert that into those shapes. And we can do some nice stuff with that as well. If I was to come back to, say, this bowl here, and say I wanted a little tiny gold trim around it, I could, I've got an edit poly modifier on here already. I'll go to my edge selection, just select one of these edges, just double click that, same thing, create shape, and we will add a little bit of geometry around there. So we could have like say a ceramic bowl and then color this gold. Really useful for machinery as well. If you have say a tube and you want to add a little rubber seal around it, you can quickly create that rubber seal and reposition it. It's just a bit quicker than maybe having to manually create a cylinder and then eyeball it. And put it in position, etc., etc. Let me see, is there anything else? No, I think I'm going to leave it there. Well, there is one other thing I could do. I don't know that it'll work, but I could try it. We've got this piece of rope. Obviously, a nice big straight piece of rope isn't going to work very well. What we can do is we can add a modifier to this called Path Deform. So if I click Path Deform here, nothing will happen at the minute, but if I choose a pre-existing path, say I've got a path here, pick path, there we go, and move the path, you can see now that that rope is following that path. Now it's being stretched a little bit here. If I can hit the stretch to sort of condense it or stretch it, I can also use the percentage slider to move it along that path. And what you may find is that it doesn't align perfectly. You might need to click one of these axes to get it to go the right way. In my case, I didn't need to do that. It aligned perfectly on the Z-axis. But this can be quite useful as well. And even if it's not a complex shape like this, if you've made, say, a chain or even just a simple cable, you can create a simple cable shape and deform it along a path. There's actually quite a few clever uses we can use for that. I'm going to show you a few of those in the next video. But for now, we're going to leave it here for splines. As I say, they're not going to be the most common thing you use in games, but they are handy for doing cables, ropes, things like that. Just remember to unwrap them. They still need to be unwrapped like everything else. And yeah, we'll leave this video here for now, and I will see you in part 3 where I'll show you one more final sort of technique we can use for these that might come in handy for making your game assets. So thank you very much. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Any suggestions, leave them down below. And give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.